The night was supposed to be quiet, but trouble never asked for permission. On the cracked pavement of a small southern town, two police officers leaned against their cruiser, eyes narrowing as a tall black man walked past. They smirked, traded a glance, and one muttered just loud enough, "Easy target." The words carried a sting, the kind meant to strip dignity from a stranger. But this man didn't flinch. His silence unsettled them more than defiance ever could. They had no idea who they had just marked. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who's listening. His name was Marcus Hale. To them, he was just another passerby, tired, perhaps vulnerable. But inside, Marcus carried a weight most men couldn't bear. He was no ordinary man. He was the commander soldiers whispered about in the deserts of the Middle East, the leader whose name alone struck fear in insurgent camps. Yet here, back on American soil, he was being reduced to a stereotype by men who couldn't see past their own prejudice. He could have walked away. He told himself to. His heart thudded as he replayed every lesson of restraint he had lived by as a soldier. But the past has a way of pressing into the present. As the officers approached, their voices dripping with mockery, Marcus felt the same chill he'd felt before battle. The street grew quieter, a few bystanders frozen at the edges, sensing something was about to unfold. "Where you headed, son?" One officer jeered, tapping his flashlight against his palm. The word son landed sharp, deliberate. Marcus lifted, his eyes, steady but soft, measuring whether to endure or confront. Every instinct said to de-escalate. Every scar on his body whispered otherwise. The air thickened. Even the cicadas seemed to pause. Marcus's mind split in two, the civilian who wanted peace and the commander who refused injustice. And when the second officer shoved him, smirking as if daring him to react, that divide closed. His hand rose, not in anger, but in the calm precision of a man who'd once directed hundreds into firestorms and brought most of them home. "Don't," Marcus said simply. One word. No shout. Just the controlled authority of a man accustomed to obedience. The crowd shifted. Someone whispered, "He's not afraid." And then, the moment that stilled even the officer's bravado. From across the street, a veteran, who had served under Marcus, stepped forward, his voice trembling with recognition. "Commander Hale?" The title cut the silence like thunder. Heads turned. Murmurs swelled. The officers blinked, suddenly unsure of the ground they stood on. The veteran dropped into a salute, his hand firm against his brow. A ripple spread through the onlookers, some clapping softly, others whispering the name like it carried sacred weight. The officers froze, their confidence unraveling. What they had thought was an easy target was in fact a man feared and revered across continents. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. His presence alone carried the gravity of a battlefield. The officers stepped back, their mockery curdling into shame. And for the first time that night, Marcus allowed himself a breath, not of triumph, but of quiet sorrow. Because this was the country he had bled for. And yet here he was, forced to prove his worth on a street corner. The crowd knew. Their silence spoke louder than any judgment. Justice, in that moment, wasn't handed down from a courtroom. It was written in the recognition of a community. Marcus gave a nod to the veteran, his voice warm despite the tension. "At ease, soldier." And the man's eyes watered, because those words, spoken here instead of on a battlefield, meant survival in a different kind of war. Because respect doesn't bow to prejudice. It rises, it commands, and it endures. And sometimes, the most feared warrior is the one who carries his power with silence. Thank you for listening to this story. If it moved you, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that reveal the truth hiding in plain sight. Your voice keeps this community alive.